This is a Canadian high school. The school parking lot is slowly filling up. Inside the school, the hallway buzzes with energy. Lockers slam shut, backpacks slung over the shoulder. You hear bits of conversation about last night's hockey game, upcoming exams, and what's trending on TikTok. Some students huddled in friend groups. Others stand alone, scrolling on the phones. Everything looks normal. But what if you could hear what's happening beneath the surface? Let's find out what's really going on in classrooms, homes, online spaces, and inside the minds of a generation coming of age in a rapidly changing world. This is a face of Canada's next generation. But behind closed doors, some of them are breaking. Depression, anxiety, suicide. Not isolated struggles, but a nationwide pattern. So what's going wrong? To understand this, we have some facts. 1 in 5 youth experiences a mental illness before the age of 25. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among Canadians between the age of 15 to 24. 50% of youth say they can't access mental health support when they need it. Behind these stats, there are stories. Families waiting months for a therapist. Teens too scared to speak up. Is being different by income, sexuality, or skin color also a risk factor for your mind? We will discuss COVID-19's effect on mental health, cyberbullying, and a question: how do we even begin to help when most of us don't know what to look for? Exploring the mental health journeys of young people in Canada, we dive deep into youth mental health, focusing on Canada and British Columbia, looking at how culture, parents, and society shapes their mental well-being. After talking to experts, going through many research papers and data, this podcast is a mirror held up to our homes, our schools, and our silence. Let's begin.
Hi, my name is Afreen Gill. I'm a third-year Bachelor's of Science Psychiatric Nursing student at Douglas College. I'm passionate about this profession because I truly believe that mental health is just as important as physical health.
Globally, youth mental wellness has declined. A UN-commissioned study covering Canada, Australia, the UK, and others notes that the traditional U-shaped happiness curve, which means carefree youth, tougher middle age, and comfortable later life, is disappearing. Now, youth well-being is at its lowest. But before diving deeper, let's first understand what is mental health. By definition, it is the state of psychological and emotional well-being. Mental health is not the same as mental illness. However, in long term, poor mental health can lead to physical and mental illnesses.
Let's start by clarifying the difference between mental health and mental illness. Mental health is our overall emotional and psychological well-being. How we handle stress, relate to others, and make life choices. Mental illness, on the other hand, refers to a diagnosable condition like depression, anxiety disorders, bipolar disorders, or schizophrenia. These affect mood, thinking, and behavior.
Mental health isn't just about illness. It's about how we think, feel, connect, and cope. When you are feeling well mentally, you are better equipped to cope with challenges and enjoy life. The state of your mental health can be affected by events and experiences, including but not limited to changes in relationships such as friends, family, and schoolmates, and also depends on the support of community. This mental landscape for young people today looks like this: stress, stigma, and social media. Many youth describe the pressure to succeed at everything: grades, sports, activism, appearance, and the fear of letting anyone down. Social media amplifies both joy and pain. Their entire sense of self can be on trial. First, there is academic pressure. School standards are always changing. Competition is really high, and the pandemic made things even tougher. Lots of students are still trying to catch up after missing out on the classroom time. Identity struggles are also a big thing. Canada is known for being multicultural, but fitting in isn't always easy. Many youth find themselves questioning where they belong, how they identify when it comes to things like race, gender, and sexuality, even if the country says it's inclusive. And finally, digital overload. Most teens are always online. Social media connects people, but it can also make you feel alone. There's pressure to always look perfect, deal with mean comments, or just get stuck scrolling endlessly. That can lead to things like cyberbullying, comparing yourself to others, or feeling left out. All of these things come together, and it's a lot for today's youth to handle. Let's look closer at the weight of stigma that many young people carry. Youth still reports fears, being judged or not taken seriously if they share struggles, worries about bullying, shame in communities that see mental illness as weakness, childhood trauma. Childhood trauma can take many painful forms: abuse, neglect, the heavy stress of immigration, and the harsh realities of racism. Imagine a young child, new to Canada, struggling with English as a second language, navigating bullying at school, and carrying the silent weight of these experiences alone.
Adverse childhood experiences are stressful or traumatic events like abuse, neglect, or growing up in poverty. These can disrupt brain development and emotional growth, increasing the risk of mental illness later in life. Youth from low-income families are more likely to face multiple ACEs due to challenges like food insecurity, housing instability, or lack of healthcare. However, the effects of ACEs can be reduced by protective factors such as a stable, loving relationship with adults, access to supportive schools or community programs, and feeling safe at home. When children don't have these supports at home, they may find them elsewhere, through a trusted teacher, a close friend, or another caring adult. Having these positive connections helps children feel supported and better able to face challenges. The more protective factors in place, the more likely a child is able to bounce back from adversity.
While every child feels pain, neurodiverse children often feel it louder, longer, and deeper, without always having the words to tell us. Trauma in neurodiverse youth can look like defiance, detachment, or meltdowns, but beneath it all is a nervous system trying to survive a world that often doesn't understand them. Trauma experienced early in life leaves deep marks, not just on the heart, but on the developing brain itself. Research shows that such stress can alter critical brain areas responsible for emotions, memory, and self-regulation. Yet, despite these challenges, children can also develop remarkable resilience, the ability to adapt and heal with the right support and care. So how do you know that a child or a youth is struggling? How do parents, teachers, and friends spot signs that a young person might be facing a deeper mental health challenge? Let's talk about what to look for.
Recognizing symptoms is key. Changes in mood, behavior, sleep, appetite, or withdrawing from friends and activities can all be signs of mental health challenges in young people.
Spotting mental struggles in kids and teens isn't always straightforward. Young people often have trouble putting their feelings into words, or their struggles can get mistaken for normal growing pains. But experts suggest some important warning signs for all of us to watch for. Is a child suddenly having trouble sleeping, or maybe sleeping much more than usual? Do you notice them withdrawing from friends, family, or favorite activities? Is there a new persistent irritability or moodiness? Something that feels more extreme than expected for their age? Have school grades dropped? Or is there trouble concentrating? Are there changes in appetite or risky behavior that doesn't fit their usual character? And the toughest question parents face, is this just puberty or something more serious? While adolescence brings ups and downs, if these changes are extreme, persistent, and start interfering with daily life, like struggles with schools, friendships, or family, it's important to look closer. Diagnosing mental struggles in young people is different from adults. Kids can show distress through behaviors. That's why pediatric psychologists rely on observation conversations with caregivers, teachers, even standardized checklists designed for children. Sometimes what looks like daydreaming, acting out, or constant complaints about aches might be a cry for help. If you're worried, trust your instincts, reach out. A simple conversation involving a teacher or school counselor or consulting a doctor can make a world of difference.
What I'm noticing more and more is that when school counselors or school administrators simply just start having conversations with students, a lot of students are just relieved to have somebody ask those questions. They've been waiting for those questions to be asked.
I think there's the moment that you can broach the subject, and sometimes it's creating a space in the classroom or an opportunity where it's not going to be a public display, where it can be perceived just as a regular conversation. It was, hey, you doing okay? How are things going? I noticed you're a little tired today.
Early recognition and support don't just help a child heal, they can change the course of their entire life. Because when it comes to mental health, understanding is the first step to help. Now turning to a recent factor that has reshaped youth mental health globally, COVID-19. When kids and youth grow up surrounded by lockdowns, phone screens, and anxiety, when they can't go out to play, can't meet friends, and no one asks them, "How are you really feeling?" This leaves a big emotional impact. Today we ask a big question. Did the pandemic break more than our economy?
Young people are particularly vulnerable to the disruptions the pandemic has caused, and many are being left behind in education, economic opportunities, health, and well-being during a crucial stage of their development.
Statistics from Canada reveal a sharp decline in mental health among youth during the pandemic. Those aged between 15 to 24 reporting excellent or very good mental health fell from 60% to around 40% by mid-2020, the largest decline of any age group. Girls were especially affected. Hospitalization and emergency visits for anxiety, eating disorders, and self-harm rose significantly. The pandemic didn't just bring new health challenges, it pushed more of our lives online. And while virtual spaces helped us stay connected, they also opened the door for another serious threat: cyberbullying. Cyberbullying happens when someone uses the internet, text messages, or social media to hurt others, sending mean messages, posting embarrassing things, or purposely excluding someone. Unlike traditional bullying, cyberbullying can happen anytime, following youth even into their homes.
Online bullying affects many youth. In fact, in 2019, 1 in 4 youth aged 12 to 17 reported experiencing cyberbullying. Teaching digital literacy, monitoring online activities, and having open conversations can protect young people from online harm.
According to 2023 Stats Canada research on over 13,600 teens, 1 in 4 Canadian youth experienced cyberbullying in the past 12 months, with older teens at high risk. Indigenous and Caucasian youth reported the highest levels among all groups. Teens attracted to same gender and marginalized groups faced more severe impacts. Voices of victims reveal the emotional toll when they say, "I laughed at the jokes about me because I didn't want to be alone." Cyberbullying leads to serious mental health problems. Again, anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, and eating disorders. Let's look at the signs to watch out for. Suddenly avoiding devices or certain apps. Withdrawal from friends and activities. Mood changes after going online. Changes in eating or sleeping patterns. And unexplained academic troubles. But the impact goes beyond hurt feelings. Reducing cyberbullying is critical to protecting teen mental health. Experts suggest school programs on online bullying involving teachers and parents, and teaching digital literacy, such as blocking or reporting bullies, to help youth regain control. In absence of support, cyberbullying can lead to self-harm or even suicide.
Hi everybody, my name is Tyler Black. I'm a psychiatrist at the University of British Columbia, and it's my pleasure to be giving this video presentation today. When we get into the actual discussion about non-suicidal self-injury and suicidal thinking, non-suicidal self-injury kind of gives away what it is to begin with. It's non-suicidal. Of course, non-suicidal self-injury looks sometimes suicidal. It can involve cutting to the wrist or burning, scratching, scraping, these types of things, carving. There's all sorts of ways that kids can use non-suicidal self-injury to make themselves feel better. But that's the most important thing that I want you to hear, is that it's an intentional thing that the child is doing. It's superficial, it usually involves a superficial injury, and it's to make themselves feel better. When we look at the numbers of why kids do this, we actually have data from BC. The McCreary study takes a look at kids in high school in BC. Over 30,000 every 5 years get surveyed. And of kids who self-injure, the most common reason to do self-injury is to calm myself down, to punish myself, to stop feeling bad, to stop my suicidal thinking, to express some form of pain. It's not to die.
Self-harm is non-suicidal self-injury is often a way to manage overwhelming emotions, not to cause death. Emotional distress, low self-worth, perfectionism, impulsivity, family difficulties, and biological factors, they all contribute. About 17% of BC high school students engage in non-suicidal self-injury, with higher rates in girls, non-binary, and Indigenous youth.
My name is Leanne. I'm 22, and I am a person with lived experience. I guess in retrospect, thinking about it now, I definitely would have benefited from seeking help way sooner than I did. I feel like I could have saved myself just quite a bit of my life back.
My name's Abby McCluskey. I'm 19. I'm first year health sciences student at Queen's. I always say the hardest part was before, when it was just me inside my head, and it looked like everything was fine. And after I told someone, at least it wasn't just me anymore.
The next definition we're going to talk about is suicidal thinking, or what we call suicidal ideation in psychiatry. This is ruminating about death or dying. It can be thoughts about wanting to be dead in a passive way, and these are types of thoughts like I wish I was dead, or I'm too much of a burden, or I wish I could go to sleep, or I don't want to be here anymore. They're general, they're not specific. Typically, this is a sign of distress that you really just want to engage with, find out what's going on, try to figure out where the safety is, and then see if you need to reach out to professional help. For active suicidal ideation, this is the type of suicidal ideation where someone has a plan. They're thinking about something specific. Maybe they're researching a method, or they've identified a place they'll go, or they say something like, tonight's the night I'm going to do it. And we have to take active suicidal ideation a lot more seriously and urgently. This is usually a sign for direct emergency care. Again, girls are overrepresented, non-binary people are overrepresented, and Indigenous kids are overrepresented. In the younger group, it's much rarer. Only about 6% of kids under the age of 12 have suicidal thinking. And suicidal thinking does come down in adulthood as well, so the peak is in adolescence.
Suicidal gestures like standing in dangerous places or sharing hopeless messages are cries for help. In BC, 1 in 6 high schoolers seriously think about suicide annually. About 5% of Canadian youth report attempting suicide each year, far more common than many realize. In BC, roughly 20 young people die by suicide annually. While the number may seem small, suicide remains a leading cause of death among youth. So the question is, should we let fear silence us, or learn to recognize warning signs and provide needed support? Therapy and support play critical roles in healing. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT, help youth develop skills to manage emotions and relationships healthily. Yet, gaps in public health services, long wait lists, scarce resources, cultural blind spots, and a troubling transition gap at age 18 leave many youth underserved. Schools and teachers are often first responders, but they struggle due to lack of specialized mental health training.
We'll see students from all different walks of life who are experiencing these challenges, these distresses, and may have these feelings. Self-harm doesn't decipher between a South Asian male or somebody who's trans or somebody who's lesbian or gay or bisexual. It doesn't discriminate whatsoever.
It's not abnormal to feel sad, it's not abnormal to feel overwhelmed. And certainly when we know that 1 in 6 kids think about suicide, it's not that strange to think about suicide. It doesn't mean that you're an off person or that you're a 1 in a million. It's a relatively common thing to happen to people, and we need to destigmatize it quite a bit. It doesn't just happen to, the stereotypical person that you might think of with mental health problems. It can happen to anyone.
Everyone has a role to play. For youth, reach out, support friends, take breaks from social media. For adults, listen without judgment, learn about local services, advocate for better funding and culturally safe care. For policymakers, invest in school resources, recruit mental health professionals, prioritize diverse cultural needs. And for us all, talk openly, normalize seeking help, watch for warning signs. Mental health challenges are not weakness. They are part of human story, intensified by our world's reality. The Canadian way is about caring for neighbors. Let's bring that home to our kids and our students, our friends. A moment of courage, reaching out, offering help, sharing a story could change or even save a life. You can find the links to many resources in the description box. A big thank you to the Government of British Columbia and specifically the Ministry of Children and Family Development for sharing resources and information for this podcast. If you or someone know needs support, call the helpline. Remember, no mind is alone. Together, we write the next chapter. Till next time.
I'm Cooper Jackson. I live in Prince Rupert, BC, but I am originally from Old Hazelton. I am Gittimax of the Gitxsan Nation, and for me as a youth, I did think that it was just me going through it, and I was the only one feeling it because at that point in time, that's all that really mattered to me. But after a bit, after I matured and learned that the other people around me cared about me, that helped me learn that they knew what I was going through and that there were a lot of other people dealing with the things that I deal with. My grandmother has always told me is that it's been around longer than you, and it's okay to feel like that. I'm not more at risk because I'm Indigenous or because I'm gay or anything like that. It's because of the world I live in, and that's what we need to change. It's the society and the way that we live, and it's not the people that we are.